What follows is a forensic audit, not of a system that's broken, but of a system that is failing by design. Between 2018 and 2023, the state of California allocated $24 billion of taxpayer money to address the homelessness crisis. So, what did that $24 billion buy? Well, a 2024 state audit gave us the answer: a 20% increase in the number of unhoused people. That contradiction, that's the signal. It tells you the system isn't malfunctioning. It's working exactly as it was built to. Your tax dollars are not funding a solution. They're funding a complex machine that is architected to sustain itself by managing a problem, not eliminating it. This is a basic law of organizational physics. Clay Shirky called it the Shirky Principle. Think about it. If an organization's entire budget, its power, and all of its employees' jobs depend on a particular crisis, then solving that crisis becomes an existential threat. This is the hidden operating system running in the background of so many large bureaucracies. At the heart of this machine is a really simple economic paradox. For the very people we task with solving a crisis, the most rational, logical action is often to make sure it never, ever ends. An economist named Niskanen figured this out decades ago. His model argues that for a government agency, success isn't really measured by fixing things out in the real world. No, success is measured internally. It's measured by the size of the budget. A bigger budget means more influence, more prestige, and of course, better job security for everyone inside the organization. So here's how the trap is set. The agency is like a monopolist selling a service, and it has only one buyer: the government. And that agency has a monopoly on one critical piece of information: what it actually costs to solve the problem. The government is flying blind. This information gap allows the agency to demand the highest possible budget, leading to bloated organizations built simply to manage the crisis. Because after all, if they actually solved the problem, the budget would go to zero and they'd all be out of a job. Now, my first assumption here was simple corruption. I went into the data expecting to find fraud, but what I found was something much colder and far more predictable. This isn't really a story about bad people. It's about rational people making rational decisions based on the incentives laid out in front of them. The system rewards preservation, not resolution. And you can literally watch the math of how this happens. When an institution starts, it's in the eradication phase. Almost every dollar goes to fixing the problem. But as it gets bigger, it enters the management phase, and more money gets diverted to its own internal machinery: HR, admin, compliance. Eventually, it hits the rent-seeking phase. At this point, more than 60% of its budget is being consumed by its own overhead. Its primary mission is no longer solving the crisis. Its primary mission is feeding itself. So what happens when you have an organization where most of the work is just maintaining the organization itself? Well, you create a whole new class of employee, and the system naturally starts to select for the wrong kind of person. This is a sociological inevitability. It's called Parnell's iron law of bureaucracy, and it says that in any organization, two distinct types of people will always emerge. On one side, you have team mission. These are your frontline people: the scientists, the social workers, the operators. Their goal is to succeed so thoroughly that their job is no longer necessary. On the other side, you have team bureaucracy. These are the administrators, the managers. Their entire career path is tied to the growth and permanence of the institution. Now ask yourself, who writes the rules? Who decides on promotions and budgets? Team bureaucracy does. They always win because the system itself is structured to reward those who protect it. It becomes a very rational choice, doesn't it? If your success is measured by the complexity and scale of the system, you have zero incentive to simplify it. But when this self-preserving machine inevitably fails to do its core job, a vacuum is created. The problem doesn't just disappear. The demand for a solution gets filled by what you could call parallel networks. The problem is privatized. And this isn't a theory. This is the final tangible cost when the state fails to provide something as basic as safety. In countries where the public police force is ineffective, a massive private security industry rushes in. In Honduras today, private security guards outnumber public police 7-1. Security stops being a public good and becomes a luxury product, available only to those who can afford it, even while the state's bureaucracy keeps cashing checks. So we're stuck in a logic loop. The system is rationally designed to fail. You can't fix it with more money, and you can't fix it with better people. The only way out is to rewrite the system's source code. Right now, the default setting for these systems is immortality. They're funded based on inputs, how much they spend, not outputs. Their goals are intentionally vague, like raising awareness. The only viable alternative is to architect systems with a kill switch built in from the start, to design organizations that are meant to become obsolete. And we have hard proof that this works. The World Health Organization completely eradicated smallpox. Why? Because their metric for success was binary. It was absolute. 0 cases. You can't fudge 0. In Texas, the Sunset Commission works by completely inverting the burden of proof. Every state agency there is automatically scheduled to be shut down unless it can rigorously prove why it still needs to exist. The default is termination. And the results speak for themselves. Since 1977, this structural kill switch has eliminated or consolidated 96 state agencies in Texas. It's saved taxpayers over $1 billion. It generates a $17 return on every single dollar spent on it. This proves that fixing bureaucracy isn't a moral issue. It's a mechanical engineering problem. So the conclusion here is purely mechanical. If these structures hold, the next evolution you'll see is a shift towards pay-for-success contracts. This isn't going to happen out of altruism. It will happen because it's the only financially auditable defense against complete systemic failure.